What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Okay, little mailbag part deux. At John Middlekauff is my Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Get your questions answered on the show. It's just my name, at John Middlekauff. Fire in those DMs. Questions here. Cody, longtime listener. As a lifelong Bucs fan, it's nice to finally see some national buzz around the team. It feels to me that Jason Light has built a high quality culture, and we've become a well-run organization. I wanted to get your thoughts on that and the ceiling you believe this 25 team has with Baker at the helm of a stacked offense complemented with a revamped defense. Reddick, Benjamin Morrison, some other guys. Spytech mentioned this because I had seen the stat and I didn't want to butcher it. And it was 44 of the 53-man roster in 2024 going into week one was either drafted or an undrafted free agent. So a guy they had signed out of college on the roster, which is insane. I mean, it really is. And everyone you'll hear when we play the John Schneider interview, I would say that Jason Light, Colin, I think said this on one of our shows over the last several months, is that Steve Keim, who longtime GM of the Cardinals, Jason Light worked for him for a minute and says like the best scout I've ever been around. Jason Light's elite at his job. Like he's an elite evaluator of talent. And I think over time, anyone who's in charge has a better idea of how to make a team, right? Because ultimately, as a GM, your exercise is a team building, puzzle, right? That's what it's not just accumulating the best possible players, right? It also has to be the right type of people that fit in the locker room. And I think over time, Jason Light has just, I would say, somewhat perfected it. Now, the quarterback position is a huge curveball for any organization. The Steelers know what they're doing, right? For the most part, when they're evaluating players. But when you don't have the quarterback, you're kind of screwed. And I don't want to say they got lucky because they signed the guy, but they signed Baker Mayfield for $4 million. And a couple years later, I think we'd all agree he's a top, I don't know, somewhere between 7 to 12 range. I mean, he's definitely one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And they have him on a team-friendly deal. So that really changed it for them as they transition from Tom. Because one thing that was evident when Tom got there is like, God, they got a lot of good players. From Wirfs, Vita Vea, obviously Mike Evans, Winfield, Levante Davids, like good players at every position. And then all of a sudden it's like they get the quarterback right and they win the division every year. Mailbag question. I was reading an article regarding the finals, the NBA finals, that is, being down 25% from last season. Talked to my dad and some other friends. They all watched the games. I'm sure you watched and willing to bet most of your listeners turned in at some point. My opinion is most fans of the sport will tune in regardless who is actually playing in the game. Yet ratings are down. In your opinion, where is the gap? Is it really driven by large markets and big brands? Or could it be a star player themselves are the biggest drivers to get people in front of the TV? I think markets. I saw Adam Silver had a quote. He was on one of the Fox Sports 1 shows, I think leading into the finals, and said, he's very jealous of the NFL, how unmarket dependent they are, right? The Chiefs are the biggest brand in the NFL, right? No longer the Cowboys. And obviously, when the 49ers, the Giants, some of these teams are really good in the biggest markets. If Chicago was a playoff team every year, they would do huge ratings. But you can have the Kansas City Chiefs, you can have the Green Bay Packers, you can have the Pittsburgh Steelers carry your sport if they're good. Basketball historically is pretty dependent on two things: markets and superstar players. I mean, the most famous player of my life is Michael Jordan. And Kobe, Shaq, to LeBron, to Steph. I mean, these are some of the biggest stars of my life, any sport. And I just, this finals lacks that. So you factor in the markets, which are smaller, and then the star power. I'm a good example. I don't have any money on this series. I wish. I just thought the Pacers being 5-1 felt a little crazy. It's like OKC is not your typical 68 win team. I was texting with a buddy the other day. I said, obviously this team's really talented and they got some young players. And, Shea is the MVP of the league, but he's 25, 26 years old. Most of their better players, beside Caruso, are young. And if they played the other elite teams, let's just say of the last 15, 20 years, I think they would lose to every single one of them. The Warriors teams with Durant and without Durant would beat them. LeBron Cavs team beat them. Miami would beat them. Any Kobe Shaq, Kobe Pau team beat them. I'm not trying to shit on OKC, but I just think the average consumer doesn't view OKC as like this can't miss juggernaut. And then Indiana was just, I mean, they're the 4 seed. So Halliburton, clearly a good player, but like these guys aren't moving the needle. If you told me that it was Knicks Lakers, I wouldn't have missed a dribble. I watched most of game one. I did not watch any of game two, and I watched a little on my phone the other day for game three because she had something on the television. And it wasn't hard for me to convince. Hey, can we watch the Thunder Pacers? So I watched second half on my phone while I was laying on the couch. But if it was Warriors versus the Knicks, I wouldn't have been watching on my phone on my couch. The fucking thing would have been on television. But it's like I think there's an element of star power slash the markets. Because OKC, like trust me, I went to the games when Durant, Westbrook were playing the Warriors, and that felt like an NFL series. And that team was treated like a big market team because Kevin Durant was a superstar and Russell was huge. So it's the NBA and baseball's like that too. I mean, the World Series last year dwarfed these NBA finals. It was also the Dodgers and the Yankees. If you tell me it's the Indians and the Diamondbacks, it's not going to be as big. Not even close. So it's most sports, just like most of our businesses, can be kind of fickle. If we had a huge recession right now and everyone cut their advertising budgets by a lot, guess what? 3 and out probably be impacted greatly. I'm pretty dependent on some factors that are out of my control. So I think the NBA is a good example. It's why David Stern used to cook the books. He wanted the Lakers in there. He's no dummy. Now, you could also make the argument from financially, it only fucks the ESPNs of the world, right? ABC. The league, their contract's set in stone. So, they're prideful about it and you want to be bigger, but they just signed a decade-long deal. So, listen, I've been critical over the years. I'm like, God, this is not a good sign. Yet they signed for 3x the amount or 2.5x. That's all that matters. The NBA Finals are here, and this is your last chance to bet on the NBA until next season. And the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make it a finals to remember. One team will be crowned the champ, and the other will be lost to history. Who you got winning it all? Obviously, everyone's picking the Thunder. Not going to lie, don't hate dabbling a little on the Pacers. 5-1 to win the series. It's the NBA Finals. They just destroy the 1 seed, the Cavs, work the Knicks. I think people are sleeping on the Pacers a little bit. I get the Thunder are good, but I think people are underrating the Pacers. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Who you got carrying their team to the chip? Try placing a bet on your personal MVP to drop 30, 40, or 50. I would expect, obviously, Shea, but definitely Halliburton to have some big games. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets and finish the season as a winner. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet $5, win $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Tyler, Is it a ridiculous idea to get rid of pass interference? I'm so tired of feeling I'm getting fucked by a phantom DPI OPI call. Let them hand fight, let them grab. Don't like the DB is grabbing you. Throw that man at the coach. Of course, typical defenseless receiver and other safety rules would apply. Love the show. You sound like a gambler or someone rooting for your team. It sucks. I think there is no, listen, holding, you could call a lot of plays. And when it gets called, it tends to be egregious. Sometimes it can be questionable. But there's nothing like, uh, I don't know, a third and nine and a dude gets called for a pass interference. You're like, are you kidding me? Defensive holding is always egregious. You're already not letting these guys hit, so you're at a huge disadvantage. I don't know what to tell you. I wouldn't get rid of the rule because you can't just let them. This isn't MMA, but I am in agreement that it is typically called um, too easily. I'm with you there. It's called too easily, but it's not going away for the bag. Who is the better player in their prime? AD, assume that's Aaron Donald, or JJ Watt? Uh, that's a hell of a question. I think I would lean JJ Watt. I'm trying to look up how many defensive player JJ won three. Aaron Donald won three. I think JJ had multiple 20 sack seasons. Donald had the 120. I think in their heyday, they are equally as dominant and unstoppable. I would say if they're both healthy in the prime of their career, I would say JJ is the more versatile player. He can line up at basically every position. Now, I've seen Aaron Donald against the 49ers when, they have an offensive line injury and the left tackle is not Trent Williams, and they will put Aaron Donald out at defensive end and he will fucking smoke the backup tackle. So, I mean, but two of the best players in the history of the league. If you told me I get both guys healthy for 8 straight years, I would take JJ Watt. Um, and it's no slight at Aaron Donald, who special player. I watched JJ in his heyday. I mean, 6'5", 300 pounds. There was no stopping him. He could pass rush like Aaron Donald, but he was unstoppable versus the run as well. Aaron Donald's good against the run too, but I would give the slight edge. I would say JJ Watt in his prime heyday is like a 10 out of 10. You could argue is the perfect player as a defensive lineman because literally every position. I mean, he can't really play like true nose tackle, right? Like a Vita Vea. Like he's not 340 pounds, but there really is not a position he can't play. He's probably a little more versatile than Aaron Donald, but we're splitting hairs. Honestly, it's like the equivalent of like, who would you want, Brady or Manning? It's like obviously everyone's picking Brady, but you know what I mean. The person that ends up with Peyton Manning ain't complaining. Speaking of cocktails with the boys, what's your go-to? I'm a professional bartender and would like to take a crack at crafting you a custom drink. I'm pretty simple. I'm a Tito soda guy. Been a Tito soda guy probably for a decade plus. That's been my go-to drink. I would say my 30s. Sometimes maybe if it's sunny outside during the day, I might do a Tito soda, splash a cran. If I'm playing golf, I will have probably a transfusion with Tito's. So I'm just a loyal Tito's guy, whether they're paying me or not. And I've been in business with them. I'm not in business with them technically, I think currently, but I'm very loyal to that brand. Know multiple people that work for them. Love Tito. That's his name. The guy that started the company still owns it. It's an incredible story. And I'm a vodka guy. I did date a girl probably 5, 6 years ago that was just drank tequila sodas. So I mean, I can have a tequila soda, but I would say someone would have to give me. I don't think I would ever order that. And occasionally, like if you're at like a Mexican restaurant or something, I'll have a margarita. Skinny, try to keep those abs. But I'm a vodka soda. I'm pretty simple. I don't drink that much anymore. I'd say golf course cocktails and out to dinner maybe, and beers. I mean, I'll we're having some beers. I'll have a beer. Hope you're doing well. Question for the pod: do you think we will ever see advertising patches on NFL jerseys like we have on in the NBA? Why or why not? I would say, I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it'd be very possible that we have uh, everything's always on the table when it comes to growing revenue. So that's an easy one. They have the patches in practice. Like when you see the Eagles or the Patriots or some of these teams, I think the 49ers at practice, and you see the still shots of whatever the local hospital is or the local whatever the company is. So I would say, yeah, definitely possible. Mailbag question. This is from Art. With all these leagues struggling with crappy ownership, what do you think of this idea? Start a 5 or 10 year clock. Any team that can't win 25% of their games, the league demands the owner sell the team. Would this motivate owners to spend more money or just do a better job? Obviously, not a probable thing to happen. Your thoughts? Here's the problem. If I'm selling you something that is worth the amount of money that a basketball team, a baseball team, obviously an NFL team is worth, the money, like what I'm paying, it's hard for you to be like, well, you also need to do this to keep the asset. It's like there's not a long list of these human beings. It's why these sales are becoming more and more complicated. Because when the Boston Celtics are going for what they go for $6 billion, seven, they don't even own their arena. The 49ers just sold on a valuation of like $8.5 billion. If Jed York and the York family wanted to sell, how many human beings? One, there's such a small amount of people that have access to, have that much money. And two, like, you kind of got to like football. Now, maybe there are people that have bought recently. Bronco fans would know better. Like Penner, the Waltons, are they really into football? Or was like, we need a place to put our money, and this is just a great buy. So I think it's just a small list. I hear this forever. It's like, could Jeff Bezos buy Team X, NBA or football? And maybe he does. I don't know enough about Jeff Bezos' like, what he likes to do. But does he like football and basketball? Does he like sports? Because if he doesn't, like, yeah, just I'm so rich, I don't need to do this, so I don't want to. Right? Part of it, clearly, some of these guys really like football. Obviously, the old school owners, the Maras, the Hunt families, the Crafts, like the Jerry, the Rooneys. I mean, we go on. The football, they fucking like football. They love football. Same thing goes for like Mark. No one ever questioned, like, do you think Mark Cuban likes the sport of basketball? Hell, Joe Lacob. It's like Joe Lacob plays a pickup game twice a week at Stanford. Guy loves hoops. So part of it, I get this guy to spend all this money. I need to find a guy that likes football or basketball or baseball. And then I'm going to dictate, well, if it doesn't go well, you have to sell. What? No. Part of the reason I'm buying it usually is to park my cash somewhere. And two, I'm doing it for my family. So I, I, I like your idea. Like I understand where you're coming from, but it's too far fetched. With South America and Australia offering better time zones for American football, do you think the NFL will gradually phase out of the UK when it comes to overseas games? Uh, it's a good question. I don't know. I honestly haven't even thought about it. I personally, Um, I do believe that it's a little far fetched to think that they could put a division if they were to expand in the UK. Uh, like you said, not just the time zone period, but just the logistics of travel. If you need to, I mean, hell, when I was with the Eagles, it's like, hey, we're working out Middlekauff. Get him a plane flight. It's like we're gonna have a workout tomorrow. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like, where does he live? Oh, he lives in Scottsdale. Okay, we can find him a flight in 2 hours. It'll be here tonight. Let him sleep a little bit. Tell him workout tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning. Think how more difficult that would be. It's like, okay, fly him out from Scottsdale to London, to Spain, to wherever. So I don't know about enough about the time zones, but I do think it's a little complicated. Yes, if you're talking about putting a team there, when it comes to just watching, isn't Australia is Australia a better time zone? Isn't Australia way ahead too? Could be wrong. Thoughts to address the questionable officiating. We're crushing officials in the middle of June. The league should put out a missed call report. After each week wraps up, report gets released on Tuesday morning. Then have the head of officials for each crew do a press conference. That way we can actually get real data on crews, what type of penalties get missed, and what point of the game the calls are being made, missed. Your thoughts? I think these leagues are very, in a weird way, protective over like the sanctity of, listen, these are human beings. They're going to be calls missed. Some are more egregious than others. We have uh, replay. There should be some mechanism to try to get it right, but there also should be some sort of human element. I mean, ultimately, this is a reality television show. So if you're Roger Goodell and you're the league, like, do I need that? Like, part of the reality is everyone bitching and moaning. It's like until you stop watching the games, why do I care if you're mad at the official or not? I've been mad a million times over the last 10, 15 years. Gambling, rooting, you name it. Think how many coaches and players get mad all the time. What does it change? It literally doesn't change anything ever. So, long winded way. I don't think the league cares. I really don't think they care. you know, I as long as people watch, nothing matters. Big fan of the pod. I'm 25 and my dad has been on me about investing at an early age. Although I've been investing my money in some stocks, safe and risky, what do you think is the best strategy when investing for the long term? And is there any companies that you're investing in that you feel good about? I think if I could go back and do it all over again, listen, it's always easy to be like, oh, see, uh, Patrick Mahomes saw that one come. No one knew. It's like, oh, should have put it all in on Facebook or Apple 15 years. It's always easy to play that game. Stocks, sports. If I would have just put a couple $100 a month when I was your age into the S&P 500, I mean, I would be worth a lot more money now. And just having a retirement plan set up instead of starting it at, truly for myself, putting money away at 34 instead of 24 on just safe stuff. Listen, you can play the game all day long, and I do. Companies you use, companies you know. Uh, I think we have examples over the course of the last 20 years. I watch Netflix. It gets turned on in my house every day, right? Think how many people over the last 20 years use Google daily. I mean, I'm looking at an Apple computer. I got an Apple phone, got an iPad. Uh, I watch Apple Plus. The show Sticks with Owen Wilson, pretty good. I wish I would have invested in Apple 15 years ago. So I think if you think that mindset when you invest in stuff, listen, there's always going to be risk involved. But I think if you just, in general, invest in our economy, like basically invest in American capitalism, the S&P 500, the S&P, there's ETFs with the top 100 companies. Um, that's what I would do, to just have something you're just investing in at a young age that you're just betting on the come that way. And it gives you diversity. That's not how I gamble, or slash invest. My investing strategy is a little bit more of a gamble when it comes to just investing in individual stocks, but we're all a little different that way. Longtime listener and first time messenger. I'm headed to Arizona in October and was wondering if you had any golf recommendations. I think I've given him a million. I need to just do a YouTube video of like, here are Middlekauff's recommendations when you come to Scottsdale. Restaurants, low price, mid price, high price. Golf courses, low priced, high priced. Some other fun stuff. Honestly, that's probably not a terrible idea. What to do when coming to Scottsdale? Maybe I should just do a video. That's actually a pretty good idea. Uh, Jackson, who, if you've listened to the show for a while, that used to come on and do college football stuff, he's now part of the volume, part of our show. And we were just talking about some just ideas. That's a pretty good one, actually. Do like a vlog. Um, Also, do you pay attention to the Niners beat? For example, the Grant Cohn versus Dave Lombardi beef. I used to be more dialed in to those guys. I like both of them. I would say I'm better friends with Lombardi. I love Grant's dad, Lowell, who's a legendary columnist for the San Francisco Chronicle that my dad loved. My dad passed away, but loved the sports section. And Lowell was probably one of the more important guys in the San Francisco Chronicle in the 80s and 90s, which probably one of the bigger papers in America. And then I got to know him through doing media stuff in the Bay. He was fucking awesome. Listen, part of it is you should have healthy competition. And the beat world is so different than it used to be. But one thing for Grant and Lombardi, for those of you listening, they're younger guys that cover the 49ers and they're big on social media and big on, I mean, they're huge on YouTube. And they're kind of the modern day beat reporter. And it's aggressive. Now, the thing is, the hatred that you see on Twitter or online. I've been to a million practices with both those guys and it's just normal. Though I was at the practice when Javon Kinlaw, uh, it looked like for a second he was going to kick Grant's ass. And Kinlaw, overrated player a little bit. I thought my guy Peters gave him a little too much money. Massive dude. I mean, Kinlaw would have beat up every beat reporter in any practice ever. Monster. But they calmed it down. They hashed it out. I've tried to spend less time on the internet. It's especially in the summer. During the fall football season, I got no choice. I mean, it's what I do. I try to balance it now. So I'm probably not as dialed as I once was when it came to internet beefs with the media. Question for the bag. I know it's way too early, but any predictions for Mike McCarthy next year? A few coaches every year get fired, and a few quarterbacks get traded. Any futures on your board? It's weird because objectively, if you look at McCarthy's career, he's a winner, right? Obviously in Green Bay, ton of success, goes to Dallas, 3 straight years, 12 wins a season. Hosts how many playoff games? Just the one? I know they lost the Niners. They played the Bucs that year. They won. Yeah, he hosted two. He hosted because he lost the Packers. So 2 of 3 years in the 3 straight years of winning 12 games, he won the division, hosted 2 playoff games. Now he lost them both, but think how many teams. One issue with Mike is people view him through a negative lens or a pessimistic lens. Instead of seeing the positives, like this guy brings something to the table, people view what he can't do. And I think that's going to hurt him. I would never say he's not going to ever get a job again, but I do think it's going to be a little uphill battle. Now, it's always dependent, like on a given year, if there's a Ben Johnson, a Mike McDonald, and a Mike Vrabel, like he's in trouble. I mean, Mickey Loomis is like a good friend of his, and they went with Kellen Moore over him. Maybe a couple years away could do him good, but one thing that hurt him that when he said he took a year away, with Dallas. And in his interview, he told Jerry, I watched every game and I knew. And then he admitted during the press conference that he lied. I think that kind of always carried with him, and which is crazy because you go, well, what's Mike good at? I don't know, coaching quarterbacks, calling offense. So think about this. His number one trait as a coach, he can call the plays and coach the quarterbacks. It's like that should be fucking pretty important. I don't know if it's his look. It does not feel like people are high on him for whatever reason. And he handled the Cowboys job pretty well. Now, I think if you're hiring him thinking you're going to get some guy that's going to dominate the highest levels, I think it's fair to question that. But you could do way worse. I mean, look at some of these coaches getting hired. Like, what are the chances? Would the Jags? Here's a good example. And this is nothing against Liam Cohen, but like, what are the chances that Liam Cohen wins in Jacksonville? You'd say historically pretty low. But if I told you that Mike McCarthy had gone to the Jags and was coaching that team, you'd be like, I bet they're pretty solid. I bet within a couple years they're in the playoffs. You would have to bet that. Now, Liam might take him to the playoffs, but he easily might not. You would probably bet against him doing it, just based on the history of the franchise. So I think he's going to have to fight the perception. I don't know. I don't quite get it because I'm all for being critical of Mike McCarthy in individual situations and games. But like if you just tell me that he's never going to get a job, which I think is very possible, that's kind of crazy to me. It really is. And if I was a betting man, I would say it's coin flip at best that he's a head coach again. I easily think he could be a coordinator, and they coordinators make millions of dollars. So it's not. I don't think he has a. His contract ended, so it's not like he's being paid to do nothing. He doesn't have like he's not being paid. Now he's made a ton of money, but at the end of the day, it's like how old's Mike McCarthy? 58, 60? It's not like he's 80. I would imagine he's going to want to make some coin. 61. If I was betting right now, he'll be an offensive coordinator in 2026. Would be my guess. I would say if I did a pie chart, I would say 60% that, 30% head coach because he's going to get some interviews, and 10% just never coaches again. Which you never know. I mean, maybe he's just over it.